Home Affairs Minister Jim Watterson is joining us this weekend, really. Lots of items that he got for us. But I mean, here's one that's going to flag up for a lot of people. Criminal justice system is set to undergo significant reform.
And we came to Tynwald with the strategy document in December. That got unanimous approval from Tynwald, and now it's about putting the next steps in place about the roadmap for where we're going to go. So we're very much working on this, but we really see that there's going to be some significant reforms coming out of this in terms of speeding up court times. The time taken from arrest through to actually hearing is currently, on average, over 70 weeks on the Isle of Man.
We've talked about this, though, many times in the past. You still haven't been able to move it along yet.
Well, now we have the programme board in place. We're now getting sign up on the key deliverables of that in terms of what are our key performance indicators. The issue about time to court, we're taking the first steps in that with the bit of legislation that's coming through, actually being moved by the Treasury Minister with the Administration of Justice Bill, which will help reduce that time dramatically by virtue of dealing with plea before venue. So people who want to plead guilty early, instead of having to go through a whole load of hoops, will actually be able to have that case dealt with far faster. And that should also then have a positive impact on the amount of people who are in prison for a long time on remand. So these sort of things that we're working on now are having real knock-on effects to deliver that criminal justice strategy.
Why is it taking so long?
Legislation is not something that we can do quickly, and it's certainly not something we should take lightly. It's something that we should always make sure we're dealing with in an appropriate way. We're going out to consultation, we're getting the public feedback on it. So whilst the ambitions are something that it's easy to say, yes, we should move forward on this apace, we've got to make sure we don't have unintended consequences.
I mean, you're saying here that the courts are clogged, aren't they, really, with a lot of minor stuff, that this should resolve that?
Yeah, we're looking, if some of the measures that we're looking to put through should take about 600 cases out of courts every year. So in terms of magistrates' time, in terms of court officers' time, in terms of legal aid, all these sort of things should create savings in terms of time and money, but also provide a better service for the individual who's going through it, and therefore victims as well.
And when do you envisage seeing this actually in place?
Well, it's a creeping programme, so that there's different elements of it will take place at different times depending on how fast we can move forward with the legislation, how much buy-in there is as we go forward. So it will take time, but it's something that is definitely worth doing.
And kind of piggybacking another one of your press releases is you're looking again for more ambitious savings and efficiencies in the Home Affairs division. I mean, where?
That's the big ask. We've saved £8 million over the last few years. It's easy to see on a daily basis what the waiting times are for hip replacements, or see how many teachers there are at the kids' school. It's not always easy to see how that works in terms of Home Affairs. If you don't need the police, if you don't need the fire brigade, we kind of take it for granted. That's going to be the real challenge in terms of where the risks are, how we scale back on that service delivery, minimising the impact, because all the back office stuff has been done. We've halved the size of Homefield, the headquarters, so in terms of civil servants pushing paper around, we're down to 9 running the whole department now. Then we're then into frontline services. So that's the only place we have left to go. 3/4 of our budget's in staffing. It's now a case of how do we go forward steadily with a programme.
How do you go forward? How are you going to have to make some cuts in manpower? That's what you're alluding to, I think, isn't it?
It is, and that's the real crux of it. But that's the hard part as well, because as soon as you sort of stop doing something, you're impacting on that response time that individuals will receive, and it's going to be a risk-based approach with the senior officers to try and work out where it is that we can draw back from services.
You know what you're saying here, though. Someone's life could be in danger if you cut too hard and too fast, and that will come back to you.
And that's right, and that's why we've got to be very careful about how we work this programme out, and that's why we're not rushing at it. The good thing about the 3-year budgets is we've been able to work it so that the transition is steady, so that we can actually have a gap to think about this and then move forward with the actual implementation over years 2 and 3. So it is going to be a big ask. Having saved £8 million, our budget's less than 30, to save another £2 million is going to be challenging. But you know, when you've got 75% of your budget overall is in staffing, then it's going to be hard to work out where else we're going to go.
And you're dealing with people who don't have a voice, and they don't come to the media. I'm talking about policemen or firemen who, I know lots who are seeing amazing changes in the way they're having to work and the amount of hours they put in, and they see their pension being put back and all that sort of thing. Morale-wise, do you know where you are? Are people on side with you on this?
I think what we are very fortunate in two ways. Firstly, that there's a lot of engagement within the department. I think we have very good relationships, top to bottom, of all of the several divisions within that. So there is a real effort of being in this together as each service, in terms of being able to put ideas up to save money in the different areas of the fire brigade, the police and the prison service. It's very much a bottom-up approach in terms of generating those ideas. Those ideas are worked on with management. It's not a them and us situation. So with that sort of good team-working spirit, I think we all know that there's only the money that Treasury is going to give us to spend. We have got that common problem, if you like. How can we best deal with it? So we do have good staff motivation, but I also think that we have staff producing great results. And the hard part is going to be not undermining the great work that people are doing whilst still having to balance the books.
So I'll go back to it. How much cutting can you do? Have you actually got a game plan in place where you're going to say there's going to be less bobbies on the beat on a Saturday night, for instance? Have you got goals like that lined up, or will it be things that people won't even notice?
Well, the idea is that we'll minimise the impact. So if it is going to be about bobbies on the beat, then it's going to be about when is the time when we need the fewest bobbies. And looking at it in that sort of cold light. Now, one of the things I'm trying to say is that we won't be rushed into that process. We are going to think about it sort of in a sober manner and really go at a crawl, because we know that the impact that this will have is going to be quite serious.
Okay, but the chiefs have to say to you at some point, enough is enough, because we can't sustain a service that is recognised as a good service for the Isle of Man if you cut any deeper. Do you listen to them on that, or do you just go back and take another 20% off them?
Well, no, absolutely I listen to them. It's a case of, firstly, from my point of view, challenging that and saying, well, why is that the case? What is it that you are doing? What is it that you can't do? Why can't you do that? And then it's a case of making those same arguments around the council ministers' table when it comes to setting budgets for the next couple of years.